Alright, just like you took it out, slide it back in. This thing feels heavy all of a sudden. I'm glad it wasn't 3/4 full. That would have been a real fun day. This is always the fun part. I don't want to try to slide it more than I have to, but at least it has a plastic barrier. Alright, we're going to use our bolts on the frame to line up our mount here. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to lower the truck to do the rest of this job. Alright, I spent a couple minutes getting this tank in place. Normally, if I had the ground clearance, I'd have it on my jack. But what I did is I slid it in, and I've got it up at an angle so I can get my hoses hooked up. Now, this is the tricky part about this, is making sure that you get the tank close to where it needs to be without stretching or pulling on the rubber fuel lines, because they will break. Alright, we will put the one in back first. Now these are O-ringed fittings. Put them in by hand and run them down. We're going to torque each one at a time. One mistake I see people do is they way over tighten these. Now these were actually torqued good. I have no complaints on whoever did the tank job. You do not want to over tighten these fittings because you can rip the O-rings. Now normally I'd hit them with some Vaseline, but I've had a couple comments on this channel that people say, don't use Vaseline, deteriorates O-rings. Well, maybe so, I don't know, I've never had a problem, but maybe they're right. So we're doing these dry. Alright, 3/4 in first. And 5/16, or excuse me, 5/8. Alright, once you get to the stop point, it's about 1/4 past, call it good. And we will test this tank before we put it up. The thing with setting O-rings, they can give you a false sense of being torqued when they're not. Better for it to be a little too loose and give it a turn than be too tight. Alright, then our marked line to the last fitting. I always do these by hand, make sure you don't cross thread them. If you cross thread it, you're replacing a line. I try to run these down as much as I can by hand. Yep, I love flare wrenches. They're good for what they do, but they can be a real pain sometimes. Sometimes half the battle is just finding the right position to get into. make sure you can't spin them. We're good there. Okay, after you get everything hooked back up, you want to do a key on test real quick. You want to make sure you have enough fuel in the tank. We have a quarter tank, so we should be good. So go ahead and turn the key just on, don't start it. Are you on key on?
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't hear the fuel pump do anything. Shut it off. Alright, turn the key. Alright, we hear the pump gurgling. Do that a couple more times. This didn't have a good ground. That's how important that ground is. Alright, you have to turn it off and wait like 5 seconds. Alright, go. Alright, key off. Alright, let's check, see if we got fuel pressure. Alright, now you see how much it's holding?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's your cold start problem right there. And look how much higher that is. Now it will bleed some off, that's pretty normal, but it shouldn't be down in the 20s. Alright, turn the key on one more time. Oh yeah.
There we go.
That sucker's gonna start quick. Alright. We'll bleed that off one more time when we do the fuel filter, because it's one thing I told him he needs to do, we're gonna do. So
Turn it off?
yep. Alright. Everything looks like it's holding. You can put the tank back up.
Perfect.
I always test these because you just never know. Alright, everything looks dry. One thing good about dust is it's definitely a witness. But yeah, you want to definitely key test this, but the problem is you're going to have, you don't hook that ground to a good location, it will not run. It'll make you think the pump you just put in is bad, so make sure you have a good ground. This is my trusty ground wire, but I had it in a bad spot. But the hookup for the ground is actually on top of this frame, and then just run a jumper to your ground. And that's pretty much how you can do a test without actually having to sling this heavy tank back up in the hole. Other than that, we are ready to go. Alright, so we had to wrestle this off camera. Pretty much two guys. You know, if the tank's emptier, it's definitely a lot easier, but we got about a quarter tank. Of course, it's reading half now that we've tested it. It might be right, it might be wrong. When the tank's cockeyed, I mean, obviously your fuel measure is not going to be correct, but we're using 2 jacks. You got to be careful you don't put too much pressure in one jack, because you don't want to push the tank in, which can be easily done. I mean, these are just hollow spaces. So normally I like to have a piece of wood under, but this thing is so heavy that we're just not going to be able to do that. So we actually have 2 jacks going on here. I was going to try to do it just one man, but you know, I know most of you usually have a buddy that you can have them come over, feed them a hot dog or a beer, and help you get it up. So that's pretty much it. We're going to lift them both up at the same time, so we're not putting too much strain on any one side. And then after that, we can just rock it back into place. So let's see how this works. Okay. Yeah, see, that's what you don't want.
I think you're on that drive line.
Yep, so I'm going to have to go on the other side and kind of just gently angle it in, because with this bracket system right here for this particular tank, I couldn't get this bolt off or would have ripped the strap. So it would have been a lot easier, because then that way I just have to lift the tank up. But whichever, you know, that's kind of how it goes. Depending on the model year you have, I mean, you could have anywhere from a 25 gallon to a 40 gallon tank. I've now just noticed the tank's actually got to go back about a ½ inch. Alright, so we're going to wrestle this beast into place. Yeah, I'm hitting on the drive line. I'm not taking the drive line out for this job. It's just not needed.
We got it out without doing it, we can do it in.
Yep, pretty much. That'd just be cheating at that point. I usually have my Kevin with me helping me do this, but he's a little under the weather today. And you can see where this bracket's just hanging me up. See if we can use some leverage to our advantage. It's going to go a little higher right here. There we go.
Perfect.
Now we got to make sure we don't run the wire. Make sure the wire's on top of that bracket. We're almost there. Let's see if we can get this jack a little better situated. That's how we're going to do it for now. Okay. Somehow we got it almost back into place. Now, while you got it at this angle, now you got to hook some hoses back up. You got to get some wiring in place. You just don't want to slam this in place. You're not going to have any working room. This is a matter of contrition right here, but we're almost there. As you can see, we're almost there. I am taking a file and cleaning that ground spot off because the ground is so important to this. Some of these trucks have a ground strap. That's a little bit different than the common ground used to power the pump. This one doesn't have it. So pretty much the fuel pump harness and the ground go on the same bolt. And other than that, the only fight that I can see now is trying to hook up the vent for the feeler neck. But we're going to put the tank up a little higher and get it closer into place, and we're just about there. Alright, lifting the rear up. Okay, now we ran into the end of the tank. So I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. Give us a little bit of working room. See if we can't get the strap bolts in. See how much farther. Might have to go back a little bit. Okay, the tank's got to come back a little bit. Alright, almost there. Alright, camera, I don't know if you can see that. Alright, we can get those started. Want to keep it loose in case we got to rock it a little bit. Now your strapping system may be a little bit different, but practice is the same. I mean, the tank's got to go up, it's got to get mounted. So now we just got to do the final hookups. Let's see if I can't get the strap started on the other side. Alright, so someone took the spacer out, so we're putting one in. Just one out of my junk pile. It really doesn't matter what's there as long as something's there. I'll show you this after we get it in. Strap up. We're going to leave that loose for now because we're going to do final hookups, but tank's up. Alright, now we got everything kind of situated where we want it and get the hoses back on. So we're going to go ahead and run this tank back in. We're going to do a little here, a little there, because we're forcing the tank to come back into alignment. Yeah, it's taken us a little part of an afternoon to get this done, but I don't rush because I don't like doing sloppy work. Now I won't tighten all these up till I get them all in. Got one more to find.
I found it.
Got it right there. There you go. Democracy in action.
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a tank sides straddled to the frame like this one. Kind of a cool way to do it. I will say it's some brake cable in the way. It does make it a little interesting, but not too bad. The torque on these bolts is about 35 foot-pounds. Okay, now we're going to go underneath and do the final strap bolt. Then we can take the jacks out of the way, finish our hookups, start the truck, retest fuel pressure, and other than that, the job is about done. Alright, we're going to get the last strap put in. Alright, so the spacer that should have been there is one I have in place, but that's fine. I mean, make sure you have your spacer. Whatever you pull out, put back in. I have a feeling when Beer Can Charlie was calling, he lost the strap spacer there. Other than that, about 35 foot-pounds, call that one good. Alright, tank is up and we're about ready for final hookups. Alright, tank's fully in place. Now it's just time to wrestle those hoses back in. It's not too bad, just kind of push them around a little bit. Other than that, you got to make sure you get that overflow right, because you don't want vapors coming out of there. Well, you lose fuel economy due to natural atmospheric depletion, which they don't want, which is why we have gas cap codes. Other than that, we're just about there. Alright, we're going to point the hose clamp down just because it was a fun fight. Normally I like to put these back in the spot that they came in, but sometimes don't want any fuel leaks while you're fueling gas. But at least now it'll be easier to get at. Okay, now we'll go for the top one. Yeah, I've seen guys just leave the clamp and then they'll just put a new one on, won't take the old one off. I'm like, it's sloppy work. That's not bad, I only had to replace one clamp out of 4. Yeah. Yep, we'll get a new one out of the box. Yeah, we don't do sloppy work here at Keith Kevin's Repair and Restoration. The day I do is the day I quit. Find the harness. Find our hole. Yeah, the most important thing with this fuel pump system is this ground right here. As we learned, it will not run if it's not grounded well. So before you condemn a pump, make sure you have your ground. Alright, when you're done, it should look something like that. We have our ground wire, we have our harness wire, we have all our connections, everything's been torqued. And other than that, we're going to turn the key, start this beast, check its fuel level. Our helper, Mr. Gray Bear. Alright, you want to get in there?
Yep.
Alright, just turn the key on and see what your fuel level is. Still showing about a half tank, but before it was at a quarter. Well, I'll have to put some gas in it and see if it goes to full. But you probably do have about a half tank in there. Okay, let's go check fuel pressure. Alright, we got fuel pressure. Alright, let's go ahead and start it.
Ready?
Go! Alright, let's go check the pump. Boy, that pump's quiet. I can hear just a light hum.
You can hear more than me.
Alright, everything looks dry. Alright, go ahead and shut it off. Alright, well, we're done with this one. Yeah, he's definitely going to have some spider injection issues to deal with shortly, but for now it's running. So if folks like the content, be sure to subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.